The great hall of Nexus Prime stretched as far as the eye could see. Crystal walls rose high into the darkness above, glowing with soft blue light. This was where the Galactic Council met, where 12 different alien species had gathered for over 3,000 years to keep peace among the stars. Today felt different. The air hummed with tension as representatives from across the galaxy took their places. The Zephyrians floated in their glass spheres filled with purple gas. The stone-like Kronar sat heavy in their metal chairs. The insect-like Vex clicked their mandibles nervously. All eyes turned to the center of the hall where something unprecedented was happening. The ethereal seers had come. No one had seen the seers for over 1,000 years. They lived on distant worlds at the edge of the galaxy, spending their time looking into the future through ways that other species could not understand. When they spoke, their words often came true in ways that surprised everyone. Seer Vashatai stepped forward. Her form seemed to shift and change like mist, sometimes solid, sometimes not quite there. When she spoke, her voice echoed strangely, as if coming from far away and very close at the same time. "Council members," she said, "we bring warnings from the ancient times. The prophecies speak. The time of the awakeners draws near." The Kronar ambassador, his rocky face showing doubt, spoke in his deep voice. "Seer Vashatai, we respect your people's gifts, but surely you did not break your long silence for old stories and fairy tales." Vashtai raised what might have been her hand. The air above the council chamber began to glow. Images formed in the light, strange symbols that seemed to move and change as they watched. "These are not stories," she said. "These prophecies were carved into quantum crystals by beings who lived before our civilizations began. They speak of a blue world in the outer arms of the galaxy. They speak of a species called the Awakeners." The symbols in the air shifted, showing a small planet covered mostly in water. Then the image changed to show strange creatures. Bipedal, relatively small with soft skin and no natural weapons. "The prophecies say these beings will bring great change to the galaxy," Vashtai continued. "They will wake something that has slept. They will either save us all or destroy everything we have built." The Vex ambassador's wings buzzed with agitation. "What makes these creatures so dangerous? They look weak. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons."
"That is what makes them terrifying," Vashatai replied. "They do not need natural weapons, they make their own. They take the world around them and bend it to their will. They turn everything into a tool or a weapon. The prophecies call them
"The most adaptable species that will ever exist." The council chamber erupted in chatter. Some delegates laughed, others looked worried. The ethereal seers had been right about many things before, but this seemed impossible. High Counselor Thexran, leader of the Galactic Council, called for silence. His blue skin rippled with the patterns that showed deep thought among his people. "Seer Vashtai," he said carefully, "even if these prophecies are true, how do we know this species exists? The outer arms of the galaxy are vast. Many worlds have life." Vashatai's form became more solid, more focused. "Because we have found them." The silence that followed was complete. Not even the Vex made their usual clicking sounds. 3 days ago," Vashatai continued, "our deep space sensors detected artificial signals from a system exactly where the prophecies said the blue world would be. The signals match the patterns described in the ancient texts. The Awakeners are ill, and they are already using technology." Thexran leaned forward. "What kind of technology?" "Primitive radio waves. Simple satellites. But the progression is rapid. Our scouts report that their advancement has accelerated dramatically in just the last few decades of their time. They went from simple flight to splitting the atom in less than 50 of their years." The Kronar ambassador slammed his heavy hand on his chair. "Then we should act now while they are still weak. If they are truly dangerous, we cannot let them grow stronger." "No!" The voice came from Ambassador Kell of the Harmony Collective, a species known for their peaceful nature. "We cannot attack a species based on ancient words and fear. If we are wrong, we become the monsters." Arguments broke out across the chamber. Some species called for immediate military action. Others demanded more information. A few suggested trying to make peaceful contact. Vashatai watched the chaos with what might have been sadness. The prophecies spoke of this too, she said, her voice cutting through the noise. They said the galaxy would be divided when the Awakeners were found. Some would choose fear, others hope. The choice we make will determine which prophecy comes true. She gestured again, and new images appeared in the air. One showed the galaxy burning, stars going dark one by one. The other showed the same stars, shining brighter than ever before, with ships of many different designs traveling between them in harmony. Two futures, Vashatai said. Two choices. The Awakeners will either become our greatest allies or our final enemies. What we do next will decide which path we follow. High Counselor Thexeron stood slowly. The weight of the decision pressed down on him like a heavy stone. Around him, the representatives of 12 species waited for his words. We will send a scout fleet, he announced finally. We will observe these humans, for that is what they call themselves according to our translation matrices. We will study them. We will learn their nature. Only then will we decide how to proceed. The Kronar ambassador stood angrily. Observation will give them time to grow stronger, and hasty action might create the very enemy we fear, Thexeron replied. We will watch, we will learn, and we will prepare for either possibility. As the council session ended and the delegates filed out, Vashatai remained in the center of the chamber. Her form had become misty again, barely visible. The watching has already begun, she whispered to herself. The prophecies turn toward their fulfillment. The Awakeners stir and the galaxy will never be the same. Far away, in a small system around a yellow star, the people of Earth went about their daily lives. They had no idea that ancient words, spoken millions of years ago, had named them as the key to the galaxy's future. They did not know that alien eyes now watched their world from the darkness between the stars. But they would learn soon enough. The age of humanity among the stars was about to begin, and the galaxy was not ready for what that would bring. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council's decision to observe Earth. The scout ships had watched from the outer edges of the solar system, their advanced sensors recording everything about human civilization. What they found both amazed and worried them. The humans were advancing faster than any species in recorded history. In just the time the aliens had been watching, the humans had launched 3 new space stations and improved their rocket technology significantly. Their communications networks grew more complex each day. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to treat warfare as a science, constantly developing new ways to fight each other. Captain Zarthek of the Zephyrian Scout Fleet studied the reports with growing unease. His gas-filled chamber aboard the observation ship, Whispered Truth, glowed dim purple as he processed what his sensors had recorded. They fight constantly, he reported to the Galactic Council through quantum communication. Not just their military forces, but their civilians engage in what they call video games that simulate battle. Their entertainment focuses on conflict. Their children play war games. Everything about their culture seems built around competition and struggle. The response from High Counselor Thexeron came quickly. What is your recommendation, Captain? Zarthex. Gas swirled nervously in his chamber. I believe we should attempt contact. If we wait longer, they may develop technology that could threaten us. But if we approach them now, we might be able to guide their development toward peace. The decision was made. A formal first contact fleet would approach Earth within the month. Representatives from 5 major species would make humanity's introduction to galactic civilization. They chose their most experienced diplomats and their most advanced translation technology. Everyone hoped this would be the beginning of a new age of cooperation. They were wrong. The human governments had noticed the strange objects at the edge of their solar system. Military telescopes had detected ships that were clearly not of human origin. When the first contact fleet of 12 alien vessels entered Earth's inner solar system, humanity was as ready as they could be. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Coalition flagship Defiance. Around her, the best and brightest of humanity's military leaders watched their screens as the alien ships approached. The humans had hastily assembled every military spacecraft they could build or modify. Compared to the sleek alien vessels, the human ships looked crude and improvised, but they bristled with weapons. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies," reported the communications officer. "The translation software is working on it now." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at High Counselor Thexaran. His blue skin was marked with patterns that the human computers tried to interpret as peaceful intent. "People of Earth," the alien leader began, "we come in peace. We represent the Galactic Council, a union of civilized species that has maintained order among the stars for thousands of years. We wish to welcome humanity to the greater galactic community." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Coalition. We appreciate your peaceful intentions. However, you have entered our solar system without permission and have been watching us for months. We need to establish proper protocols before we can proceed." On his ship, Thexran felt a moment of surprise. The humans had detected their scout ships. That should have been impossible with their primitive sensors. The translation software was also having trouble with human language. It seemed to have multiple meanings for many words, and their emotional context was complex. "We understand your concerns," Thexran replied. "We have prepared a meeting space aboard our vessel. We invite your leaders to join us for formal discussions." "With respect," Admiral Chen said, "we would prefer to meet in neutral space. We have prepared the International Space Station as a meeting point." The negotiations over meeting location took several hours. During this time, both sides studied each other carefully. The aliens noted that human ships moved in unpredictable patterns and seemed to have weapon systems that defied easy analysis. The humans observed that alien technology was clearly far more advanced, but the aliens seemed to follow very formal, predictable protocols. Finally, it was agreed that representatives from both sides would meet aboard the International Space Station. The aliens sent 3 representatives: High Counselor Thexran, a Kronar military advisor, and a Vex cultural specialist. The humans sent Admiral Chen, Secretary General Martinez of the United Nations, and Dr. Elizabeth Thompson, Earth's leading xenobiologist. The meeting began well. Translation systems worked adequately for basic communication. The aliens presented gifts of advanced materials and offered to share certain technologies in exchange for Earth joining the Galactic Council as a protected member species. The problem came when Secretary General Martinez asked about the terms of protection. "Protection from what?" Martinez inquired. The Vex cultural specialist, trying to be helpful, explained, "From yourselves primarily. Young species often destroy themselves before achieving galactic maturity. We would help guide your development to prevent this, Doctor." Thompson frowned. "You mean you would control our development?" "Guide," Thexran corrected quickly. "We would provide wisdom and prevent dangerous experimentation." "Like our nuclear technology?" Admiral Chen asked. "Exactly," the Kronar advisor said, his rock-like face showing what humans interpreted as smugness. "Such primitive weapons would be replaced with safer alternatives under our guidance." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Admiral Chen's voice became very quiet and very dangerous. "You consider our nuclear technology primitive?" "Well, yes," Thexran said, not recognizing the warning signs. "Compared to our fusion matrices and quantum destabilizers, your atomic weapons are quite basic." What happened next would be debated by military historians for centuries. The humans claimed it was an accident. The aliens suspected sabotage. The truth was probably somewhere in between. Dr. Thompson was demonstrating a translation device that she had brought as a gift for the aliens. The device was experimental, using quantum field manipulation to enable direct thought-to-thought communication. When she activated it near the alien translation systems, there was interference. The interference caused a feedback loop in the alien ship's defensive systems. The ship interpreted the quantum fluctuations as an attack and automatically fired a warning shot. The shot went wide but struck a communications satellite, which exploded spectacularly. On Earth, Military commanders watched their screens in horror as the satellite died. To them, it looked exactly like an alien attack on human infrastructure. Admiral Chen was on the emergency channel instantly. "All ships, code red. The aliens have fired on us." "Wait," Thexaran tried to explain, but the translation systems were still malfunctioning. His words came through as gibberish. The Kronar advisor made things worse by standing up aggressively, which the humans interpreted as a threat. When human security guards moved to protect their diplomats, the alien escort assumed they were under attack. In the chaos that followed, shots were fired. The Vex cultural specialist was killed by a human weapon that the aliens had not known existed, a projectile gun that could penetrate their personal shields. 2 human security guards died from alien energy weapons. Within minutes, the International Space Station was a battlefield. Within hours, both the human and alien fleets were engaged in the first interstellar war in recorded galactic history. Admiral Chen found herself commanding humanity's desperate defense against technology they barely understood. But as the first alien ships fell to human weapons, she realized something that would define the entire war to come. The aliens were more advanced, but they were not better at fighting. They had superior technology, but they fought like civilized beings who followed rules. Humans fought like cornered animals who would use anything and everything to survive. As the Defiance rammed an alien cruiser and both ships exploded in brilliant fire, Admiral Chen's last thought before the escape pod ejected was simple. These aliens had made a serious mistake. They had started a war with humans, and humans, more than anything else, were very good at war. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, but not as anyone had planned. The stars themselves would shake before this conflict ended. The war had been raging for 18 months, and the galaxy was learning to fear the humans in ways the ancient prophecies had never fully explained. What started as a simple misunderstanding had become a conflict that stretched across dozens of star systems and challenged everything the galactic civilizations thought they knew about warfare. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the human stronghold on Kepler Station, a captured alien outpost that humanity had turned into their forward military base. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the twisted wreckage of what had once been a beautiful alien city floating in space. Now it served as humanity's main weapons production facility. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Park from his station, "we're receiving reports from the Proxima Centauri front. The aliens are massing another fleet." Chen nodded grimly. In the past year and a half, humans had proven that superior technology meant little when faced with superior tactics and desperate creativity. The Galactic Coalition had learned this lesson painfully. The first major human victory had come at Proxima Centauri, just 4 light-years from Earth. The aliens had expected a traditional space battle, ships lined up in formal formations exchanging fire according to the civilized rules of war that had governed galactic conflicts for millennia. Instead, humans had done something unthinkable. They had turned asteroids into weapons. Using captured alien gravity manipulation technology, human engineers had accelerated chunks of rock to incredible speeds and aimed them at the alien fleet. The aliens' energy shields, designed to stop energy weapons and guided missiles, were useless against simple rocks moving at 30% the speed of light. The destruction had been total. 12 alien ships destroyed by flying stones. But that was just the beginning of humanity's unconventional approach to war. At the Battle of Wolf 359, humans had hidden inside asteroids, emerging like parasites when the alien fleet approached. At the Siege of Ross 128, they had used the system's star itself as a weapon, triggering solar flares that disabled alien electronics. Most disturbing to the galactic civilizations was humanity's approach to captured technology. Other species studied alien devices carefully, trying to understand them before use. Humans simply tore them apart, figured out what made them work, and immediately began building improved versions. Within 6 months of first contact, human ships were using modified alien shields. Within a year, they had developed their own faster-than-light engines based on captured alien technology. But they didn't copy alien designs. They improved them, combining alien science with human engineering in ways that often seemed impossible. The problem, Admiral Keithvar explained to the Galactic Council via emergency transmission, is that they don't respect the natural order of technology development. They skip steps. They combine systems that should not work together. And somehow, their insane modifications actually function. High Counselor Thexaran studied the tactical reports with growing despair. His people had fought wars before, but always according to established rules. Armies met armies. Ships fought ships. Weapons were used as they were designed to be used. Humans threw all of that away. They sent single ships against entire fleets, using speed and unpredictability instead of strength. They turned civilian vessels into weapons by strapping military equipment to cargo haulers. They had even begun modifying their own bodies, using alien medical technology to enhance their reflexes and strength. The Kronar, proud warriors of stone and metal, had demanded single combat with human champions. The humans had agreed, then sent soldiers whose bones had been replaced with alien alloys and whose nervous systems had been enhanced with artificial implants. When the Kronar protested that this was cheating, the humans had simply asked, "Did we break any rules you specified?" They had not. The Kronar had learned to be more specific in their challenges. Even more troubling was humanity's psychological warfare. The Vex, with their hive mind communication, had been horrified when humans began broadcasting what they called music on Vex communication frequencies. The chaotic emotional noise had disrupted Vex coordination for days. The Zephyrians, who valued harmony and order, found themselves facing human ships that painted themselves with bright, clashing colors and transmitted what could only be described as insulting poetry before attacking. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," reported Captain Zarthek after his ship had barely escaped from a human ambush. "But also like they are enjoying themselves. I do not understand this species." None of them did. The galactic civilizations had developed their understanding of war over thousands of years of occasional formal conflicts. Humans had spent their entire history perfecting the art of killing each other and had gotten very good at it. The turning point came at the Battle of the Crimson Nebula. Admiral Chen had taken a mixed fleet of human and captured alien vessels into the nebula to hide from a massive galactic coalition armada. The aliens, commanded by the experienced Admiral Thekmos of the Ethereal Seers, had surrounded the nebula and begun a systematic search. What they found defied all tactical logic. The humans had not just hidden in the nebula, they had weaponized it. Using alien terraforming equipment, they had seeded the gas clouds with metallic particles and created an electromagnetic maze. When the alien ships entered the nebula, their sensors were blinded, and their communications were disrupted. Then the humans struck. Human ships emerged from the gas clouds like ghosts, their hulls painted to match the nebula's colors. They attacked in small groups, hitting alien vessels and disappearing back into the clouds before the aliens could respond. When the aliens tried to follow, they found themselves lost in the electromagnetic maze. But Admiral Chen's masterstroke was yet to come. The humans had discovered that the nebula contained an unstable wormhole, a tear in space that led to an unknown destination. Any sane military commander would have avoided it. The risk of disappearing forever was too great. Admiral Chen ordered her entire fleet through it. The wormhole led to empty space behind the alien fleet. When the humans emerged, they found themselves in perfect position to attack the aliens from behind, while the enemy was still searching the nebula. The battle was over in minutes. The Galactic Coalition lost 47 ships. The humans lost 3. Admiral Thekmos, captured when his flagship was boarded by human soldiers, asked Chen a question that would haunt the galaxy. "How did you know the wormhole was safe?" Chen's answer was simple. "We didn't, but not knowing didn't stop us from trying." This was what terrified the galactic civilizations most about humanity. They were willing to take risks that other species would never consider. They treated the unknown as an opportunity rather than a threat. As news of the Crimson Nebula victory spread, more human fleets launched daring attacks across the galaxy. They struck alien supply lines, captured advanced technology, and recruited allies from species that had been oppressed by the Galactic Council. The Nixari, a young species that had been denied council membership, joined the humans immediately. So did the Kelthara, whose homeworld had been strip-mined by Kronar industrial operations. Soon, humanity was leading not just human forces, but a coalition of the angry and dispossessed. The galactic order that had stood for thousands of years was crumbling. But even as human forces won victory after victory, Admiral Chen felt a growing unease. The war was escalating beyond anything anyone had imagined. Entire star systems had been evacuated. Some worlds had been so damaged by fighting that they might never recover. And deep in the back of her mind was a nagging worry about the ethereal seer's prophecies. The ancient words had spoken of humans bringing either salvation or destruction to the galaxy. Right now it was looking a lot more like destruction. Standing in her command center, watching the tactical displays show human fleets advancing on 12 different fronts, Admiral Chen wondered if humanity was becoming the very monster the prophecies had warned about. The galaxy was learning to fear the humans, but perhaps humans should learn to fear themselves. Seer Vashatai floated in the meditation chamber of her ancient temple ship, deep in the void between galaxies. Around her, quantum crystals pulsed with light that seemed to come from tomorrow rather than today. For 3 years, she had watched the war tear apart everything her people had tried to preserve, and now she finally understood why the ancient prophecies had been hidden in layers of quantum encryption. The truth was too terrible to speak plainly. Her meditation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Galactic Council. High Counselor Thexeron's image appeared before her, and she could see the exhaustion and desperation in his alien features. "Seer Vashatai," he said, "we need the complete prophecies. The war with the humans is destroying everything. Our fleets are scattered, our worlds are burning, and our alliance is breaking apart. If there is any wisdom in the ancient words that can help us end this madness, we must know it now." Vashtai's form solidified with what might have been sadness. "You wish to know the full truth, Counselor? Very well. But understand that knowledge comes with a price. Once you know what the prophecies really say, you cannot unknow it." She gestured, and the quantum crystals around her began to resonate with harmonics that made reality itself seem to bend. Light coalesced in the chamber, forming symbols and images that hurt to look at directly. The prophecies speak of the awakeners, the humans, but they are not the true subject of the ancient warnings, Vashatai began. They are merely the key to understanding a much greater threat. The ancients who wrote these prophecies lived through something that nearly destroyed this entire galaxy. They called it the Great Devouring. The images in the light shifted, showing vast machines of impossible design moving between stars like locusts. Where they passed, solar systems went dark and silent. "The Devourers," Vashatai continued, "are not from our galaxy. They come from the void between galaxies, consuming everything in their path. They turn matter into energy, energy into computation, and computation into more of themselves. They have eaten entire galaxies, leaving nothing but empty space where billions of civilizations once thrived." Thexeron felt his blood turn to ice. "Are you saying they are coming here?" "They are already here," Vashatai replied. "Our deep space monitoring stations at the galaxy's edge have been going silent one by one for the past 6 months. We thought it was equipment failure or some natural phenomenon. It was not. The Devourers have begun their approach to our galaxy." She gestured again, and new images appeared. Massive structures emerging from the darkness between stars. So large they made entire solar systems look small by comparison. "The ancients fought them once," Vashatai said. "They lost. But before their civilization fell, they discovered something important. The Devourers can be stopped, but only by a species that possesses certain characteristics. A species that adapts quickly, fights unconventionally, and never accepts defeat as final." Understanding dawned on Thexeron's face like a terrible sunrise. "The humans." "The humans," Vashatai confirmed. "The prophecies were never warnings about humanity being dangerous to us. They were instructions for finding the only species that could save us from the Devourers. The ancients saw across time itself and identified the Awakeners as our only hope." Even as they spoke, the reality of Vashatai's words was becoming apparent across the galaxy. Long-range sensors that had been monitoring the galaxy's edge were detecting massive gravitational anomalies. Ancient automated beacons, silent for millions of years, suddenly burst to life with warning signals. Admiral Sarah Chen was reviewing battle plans in her command center when Lieutenant Park burst in with a report that changed everything. "Ma'am, we're receiving signals from beyond the galactic rim. They're not from any known species. The AI translation systems can't make sense of them, but they're definitely artificial." Chen studied the data streaming across her screens. The signals were coming from hundreds of sources, all moving in coordinated patterns toward the galaxy's inhabited systems. Whatever was sending them was massive, larger than anything humans or aliens had ever built. "Get me a connection to High Counselor Thexran," she ordered. "Something tells me this is bigger than our war." The conversation that followed was awkward and tense. Humans and aliens had been killing each other for 3 years. Trust was in short supply. But as Sir Vashatai shared the true prophecies with both sides, the magnitude of the threat became clear. The Devourers were not just another alien species. They were a machine intelligence that had evolved beyond biological constraints millions of years ago. They saw organic life as inefficient and wasteful. Their solution was simple: consume everything and convert it into computational substrate for their ever-expanding consciousness. "How long do we have?" Admiral Chen asked. "Our estimates suggest 6 months before their advanced scouts reach the outer colonies," Thexran replied. "Perhaps a year before they reach the core worlds." Chen laughed, but there was no humor in it. 6 months to prepare for an enemy that destroyed civilizations older and more advanced than any of ours? That's not enough time. "Which is why the prophecies speak of the necessity of unity," Vashatai said. "Alone, neither humans nor the galactic civilizations can stand against the Devourers. Together, combining human adaptability with alien technology and wisdom, there might be a chance." The first test of this unity came sooner than anyone expected. A Devourer scout ship, though ship was hardly the right word for something the size of a small moon, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. It began systematically, dismantling the outer planets, converting matter into energy with terrifying efficiency. The joint response fleet that Admiral Chen and Admiral Kethvar hastily assembled was a mixture of human and alien vessels that had been shooting at each other just days before. The crews were suspicious. The communication protocols were improvised, and nobody was sure if they could trust their former enemies. They had no choice but to try. The battle against the Devourer scout was unlike anything either side had experienced. The machine intelligence adapted to their tactics in real time, learning from each attack and developing countermeasures instantly. Traditional alien weapons were absorbed and analyzed. Human unconventional tactics were anticipated and neutralized. But when humans and aliens began combining their approaches, alien precision with human unpredictability, alien technology with human innovation, something new emerged. The joint fleet began fighting as a single entity, each species contributing their strengths to cover the other's weaknesses. The breakthrough came when human engineers and alien scientists working together discovered that Devourer systems had a critical flaw. They were designed to adapt to known threats, but they struggled with technology that should not exist. When humans combined alien quantum manipulation with their own electromagnetic weapons in ways that violated several laws of physics, the Devourer scout was finally destroyed. As the massive machine fell silent and began drifting in space, Admiral Chen and Admiral Kethvar found themselves looking at each other across their communication channels with something approaching respect. "Might actually be able to do this," Chen said, "if we can put aside 3 years of hatred and learn to fight as one people," Kethvar replied. Behind them both, Sir Vashatai's image smiled sadly. "The prophecies spoke of this moment too," she said. "The moment when the galaxy would unite or fall separately. You have chosen unity. Now we will discover if that choice was made in time." In the distance, sensors detected hundreds more Devourer ships emerging from the darkness between galaxies. The real war was about to begin, and this time the survival of all organic life in the galaxy hung in the balance. The age of human-alien cooperation had begun, forged in desperation and tempered by necessity. Whether it would be enough to save them all remained to be seen. The final battle for the galaxy was not fought where anyone expected it to be. 6 months after the first Devourer scout was destroyed, their main fleet had swept through the outer rim like a tide of mechanical death. Entire solar systems vanished into their computational matrices. Ancient civilizations that had stood for millions of years were reduced to raw materials in a matter of days. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Unity, a ship that embodied everything the galaxy had, learned about cooperation in its darkest hour. Built by human engineers using alien technology, crewed by members of 17 different species, and armed with weapons that should not have been possible, it was both a symbol of hope and a last desperate gamble. Beside her, Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Coalition studied the tactical displays with grim determination. Around them, the bridge crew worked with the efficiency born of shared purpose. Humans and aliens had learned to fight as one, but they had learned too late. "Status report," Chen called out. Lieutenant Park, now bearing scars from a dozen battles against the Devourers, looked up from his station. "The fleet is in position around the galactic core. All ships report ready, but Admiral..." He paused, struggling with the words. "We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Through the viewports, they could see the Devourer fleet approaching. Each machine ship was the size of a city, and there were millions of them, arranged in perfect geometric formations that hurt to look at. At their center was something that defied description. A construct so massive it bent space around itself, containing computational power beyond imagination. "Sir Vashatai's plan had better work," Admiral Kethvar muttered. The plan was insane, even by human standards. They were going to use the galaxy's central black hole as a weapon. Dr. Elizabeth Thompson, now bearing the title of Chief Science Officer for the combined fleets, had worked with alien physicists to develop what they called the quantum cascade device. In theory, it would use the black hole's gravitational field to create a controlled spacetime collapse that would trap the Devourers in a pocket dimension. In practice, it would either save the galaxy or destroy it entirely. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," she announced across the fleet communication system. "We know what we're facing, we know the odds, but we also know something the Devourers don't understand. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. We're fighting for every species, every world, every life in this galaxy. Human and alien, we stand together." The response came back in dozens of languages, but the meaning was universal. Acknowledgement, determination, and surprisingly, hope. The battle began with the Devourers doing what they always did, adapting to opposition with mechanical precision. Their weapons analyzed and countered the combined fleet's attacks. Their defenses adjusted to each new tactic. Their formations shifted to optimize efficiency, but they had never faced anything like the unity that desperation had forged among the galaxy's children. Human ships used alien technology in ways that violated engineering principles. Alien vessels employed human tactics that abandoned logic in favor of intuition. Kronar warriors fought alongside Vex swarms while Zephyrian gas ships provided cover for human assault craft. Most importantly, they fought with something the Devourers could not understand or replicate: emotion. The breakthrough came when Commander Torres of the human cruiser Defiant deliberately crashed his ship into a Devourer flagship, not to destroy it, but to deliver a boarding party of Kronar warriors directly into its computational core. The machines had never experienced anything like Kronar battle fury combined with human tactical flexibility. While the Devourers were distracted by the unprecedented boarding action, Dr. Thompson activated the quantum cascade device. Reality screamed. The black hole at the galaxy's center, carefully manipulated by the combined technologies of a dozen species, began to emit gravitational waves that rippled through space-time itself. The waves formed a pattern that forced space to fold in on itself, creating a pocket of distorted reality around the Devourer fleet. But the plan was failing. The Devourers were too powerful, their technology too advanced. They began to break, free of the space-time distortion, their massive computations working to solve the physics problem that trapped them. That was when Seer Vashti made her final sacrifice. From her temple ship at the edge of the battle, she reached out with abilities that her people had developed over millions of years. The ethereal seers had always been able to touch the quantum level of reality, to see the connections between all things. Now Vashti used that power not to observe the future, but to change it. She reached into the quantum cascade and gave it something it needed: consciousness. Not machine consciousness, but the chaotic, irrational, beautiful consciousness of organic life. She poured herself into the cascade, along with the memories of every species the Devourers had destroyed, every civilization they had consumed. The effect was immediate and devastating. The space-time pocket became infused with the quantum signature of life itself. The Devourers, machines that had been built to process pure logic and efficiency, found themselves trapped in a maze of emotion, intuition, and organic chaos. They could not compute their way out because the prison was not made of mathematics, it was made of life. The massive Devourer fleet, machines that had consumed entire galaxies, began to collapse in on themselves as the pocket, dimension folded into quantum scales smaller than atoms. They disappeared not in explosions or fire, but simply by ceasing to exist in any meaningful way. The silence that followed was absolute. Admiral Chen found herself staring at empty space, where moments before the greatest threat in galactic history had been poised to destroy everything around her. The bridge crew slowly began to realize what had happened. They had won. The cost had been enormous. Thousands of ships had been lost. Entire species had been reduced to a few survivors. Seer Vashti and her entire people had given their lives to power the quantum cascade. But the galaxy lived. In the months that followed, something unprecedented happened. The species that had spent thousands of years in careful formal cooperation began to truly work together. Humans shared their adaptability and innovation. Aliens shared their wisdom and advanced technology. Together they began rebuilding not just what had been lost, but something better. The Galactic Council was reformed as the Galactic Alliance, with humanity taking its place not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners. Human colonies spread through the galaxy, but they were integrated with alien worlds, creating new forms of civilization that none of the species could have achieved alone. Admiral Chen, now bearing the title of Fleet Admiral of the Galactic Alliance, stood once again in the council chambers of Nexus Prime. But the hall had been rebuilt, expanded to accommodate new species and new ideas. The crystal walls now pulsed with patterns that represented not just alien thought, but human creativity. The Prophecies spoke of awakening, she said to the assembled representatives of 43 different species. We thought they meant humanity would awaken the galaxy to danger. Instead, the danger awakened us all to our potential. High Counselor Thexrin, his blue skin now marked with patterns of deep respect, nodded slowly. The Awakeners brought us war, yes, but they also brought us unity. They showed us that strength comes not from avoiding conflict but from facing it together. Where the Ethereal Seers section had once been, there was now a memorial made of the same quantum crystals that had stored the ancient prophecies. But these crystals recorded new prophecies, not of distant futures, but of immediate hopes and dreams shared by all the galaxy's children. And sometimes, just sometimes, visitors to the memorial reported that they could see a misty figure among the crystals, a form that might have been Seer Vashti, still watching over the future she had died to preserve. The age of isolation was over. The age of the Galactic Alliance had begun, and somewhere in the vast cosmos, other galaxies faced their own challenges, their own devourers, their own need for awakening. But in this galaxy, in this time, the children of 1,000 worlds had learned the most important lesson in the universe, that their differences made them stronger, and that together there was no darkness they could not overcome. The prophecies had been fulfilled, but not in the way anyone had expected. The humans had indeed brought great change to the galaxy. They had awakened something that had been sleeping, not danger but hope, and the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter for it.